there is a part of the creative industry that has always been replaceable in quotation marks, by the way. Platforms like Fiverr proved that years ago. There's an oversupply of work that looks the same, delivers the same quality, and competes only on price. Those creatives were already in a race to the bottom. AI is just speeding that up. When ChatGPT arrived, copywriters were the first to feel the impact. Work that used to take hours could suddenly be done in seconds for free. Designers saw that and assumed visuals wouldn't catch up so quickly. Remember the Will Smith eating cereal commercial, whatever that was? Like there was like this clip. Yeah, so well, that kind of felt like a safe gap. But just recently, I sent Becca like a TikTok where someone was creating a lamp, like a Mario figurine lamp. I don't even know what that was. And I genuinely thought it was real. Like I sent it to you thinking it was real. And that's kind of scary because now like a single prompt can produce visuals that an untrained eye can barely distinguish from human work. And for many clients, that's already good enough. So the real question is not how to adapt to AI. It's what you offer that AI simply cannot. Our guest today is Sandro Siller, a copywriter based in Vienna and founder of Wort Weit Wien. Before we get into it, can you introduce yourself and tell us what Wort Weit Wien does?
Sure. Hello, everybody. My name is Sandro. I am originally from the area of Innsbruck, but I moved to Vienna about a year and 3 months ago. And as you already mentioned, I'm a copywriter, freelancer, independent, and I started Wort Weit Wien, which is basically a copywriting service, of course. But as we're also talking about AI, positions or jobs they evolve, I would say. So now I also started an education platform for in the area of branding. And yeah, I am 30 years old, or almost 30. I'm making myself older now. And in my spare time where I'm not geeking out about text and SEO and geo, I do downhill mountain biking, and just enjoying life, I guess.
Love that for you. Wow. Okay. Well, that was a good one. I'm like, okay, downhill mountain biking. That's crazy. It's actually something I wanted to try, but was always too scared to do.
Really?
I swear,
Oh my
yeah.
God, I have no desire to
It's
do
the best
that.
thing.
That scares me way too
No, a
much.
friend of mine did that too. And I really wanted to try it as well, but then he broke his leg and it kind of like scared me.
Yeah, that's
Well, that
understandable.
happens.
Yeah, well, did you break anything doing that?
Not yet. I'm actually pretty surprised, since I'm quite new. I mean, I actually not that quite new. I'm doing it since about 3 years now. And it's actually pretty surprising that I didn't broke a bone so far, which is quite an effort, I guess.
Well,
Yeah.
that's really good for you. I love that. Well, since this podcast isn't about mountain biking, although it would be fun to talk
True.
about it more, I want to start. I want to start with something that happened when ChatGPT arrived, because I think designers are just now starting to feel something that copywriters did, like back in the beginning of when AI got like popular and commercialized, I guess. And can you take us back to when ChatGPT first launched? When did you start noticing that something had shifted?
I can gladly take you back there, even though I did not do this profession as my main job back in the days, but still, I mean, what we've already seen, since you already started mentioning platforms like Fiverr or Upwork, um, for me, it felt like the final shield has been broken, because if you look back when we were already working with these platforms, that there was just mainly price dumping. Like you would always find someone cheaper, and this was the only, or actually the weapon, why the creative industry already suffered there. But AI just took away the last hurdle, I would say. And the thing is with us copywriters, yes, there. was already a shift, since you already said, or it's quite obvious, texts can now be generated. So we already had to start to get more strategic, I would say. If I check my role, or what I do before the real use of AI, I mean, you would have arguments. Yeah, you're a good, or I myself am a good writer. This would be an argument. The arguments would be very simple, that to sell your service back in the days. Now, how you sell yourself got more strategic, I would say, a lot more strategic, because you need to come out of your lazy self, and really start to think about new strategies and approaches. But this is mainly it for me, seeing how the jobs and the industry shifts, by really just removing one last filter and honestly say how it has always been. It's been a competitive market, yes. Dumping was already there, but AI is kind of revealing the truth, and gets, I would even say, a little bit more integrity in this whole fight.
Yeah, that's well put.
What do you mean? What do you mean by that? Like it gets more integrity?
Like, as I said, back in the days, only on the platforms, you would just try to talk it really good, that you need to really fight for clients. It was very romanticized. Now, because the fight, including AI, has been or became more brutal, you need to be bloody honest with yourself and in the market, that in the end it's about fighting for money, fighting for your own existence, without romanticizing it, because you cannot afford to romanticize the whole customer acquisition part, I would say.
I actually really like what I mean, it's kind of sad, but I really like what you said. You put it
It
really
it it
well.
is sad,
That
but come on. It if you're brutally honest with yourself, of course, everybody, or I hope at least the biggest portion of people, is working in this field because they actually love to. But in the end, we're also here about money, and it's always been like that. But now we cannot romanticize this whole romanticized thinking of, oh, I'm not all about the money, because in the end you are. And with AI, it just gets more clearer and clearer.
Yeah, actually, I think that's a good thing because, like one part of the creative industry was always a bit too idealistic in a sense of
Yeah.
like not valuing their work enough to like sell it for good money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's good that then people now have to suddenly sit with this realization where they're like, okay, wait a minute, I need to make money here, and like just the output isn't enough anymore. And I actually really like what you said, that we are not really competing anymore just with our peers. We're also competing with clients now that can
Yeah.
generate everything themselves. That's actually very well put.
Yeah.
It's true, yeah.
I haven't thought about it that way, but it's like super sad.
I
Um,
mean,
but
it's sad, and that's especially from a copywriting perspective, because if I look back, and this is also one shift I see, um, what we as copywriters already had to do a little bit earlier than everybody else who is doing it now. Um, this whole inclusion of AI in this whole market, in this whole industry, also led to the fact that now really everybody needs to have a personal brand to actually sell something. You're not valued anymore based on the output you deliver, but nowadays you're really valued not only with the outputs you deliver, which I hope for everybody is good, but also with the brand you carry as yourself. And I remember back in the days when AI really hit the market, and with writing, the copywriters were the first ones that actually posted regularly on LinkedIn, and tried all those new forms of market approach. And yeah, I see that with a lot of designers happening now, to be honest.
this is also something we can be a witness of, that's for sure.
Yeah, I think I see so many people. I mean, but it's also a bubble. Like when I'm online on LinkedIn or on Threads, there are a lot of
Yeah,
designers active there, like building their personal brand. I think it is true that, and what you said before, like we're not just selling output. I don't think we were ever just selling output, especially the people who weren't doing the work, like, what you can get on Fiverr. But it
yeah,
wasn't something that had to be communicated, I feel like, as much as it has to be now. Like, now we have to be so
I
clear
guess.
on what are we actually doing? What is our value? What are we selling? And it's not just the
Yeah,
output. Okay, then what is it? Because you only see the output. So it's hard for clients to understand the rest of it. So we have to do all that
that's true.
explaining before they even get to the point of, wanting to buy the output,
Yeah.
which is like what a lot of people are struggling with right now, I feel like.
Yeah. Agreed. Well, I mean, speaking of value, um, well, let's move into no, before I move into the next segment, did you have any copywriting friends back when ChatGPT hit? Because you mentioned that you weren't like a copywriter back then. Did I get that one wrong?
No, you're actually right.
Okay.
You're right. I was working in tech companies back in the days. Oh, that sounds like I'm real old. No, but over the past years, I mainly worked in tech companies. But I always had things to write, and like be it emails, be it marketing texts for our marketing department or marketing team, to descriptions on and how-to guides and knowledge base articles. I somehow got into liking typing very much, and then I decided, yeah, this is maybe a skill that I should further dig into by doing a little bit more training. I did an actual copywriting mentoring for a few months where I basically learned all the details, all the tips, all the tricks, how it's done. And then I just quit my 9 to 5 job and said, yeah, I'm a freelancer now. I'm working for myself. And that's actually how I got into it. But I already had a basic concept of how this job could be. I worked in a more or less agency once before, and we had a texter there. So I kind of knew what these people are doing and how they're doing it. Um, but yeah, what actually also got me quite into writing is or why I decided to be a writer or a texter full time. I also wrote a cooking book, which also showed me how much I actually love typing. And yeah, that's my way into copywriting and in this industry. But it's already changing. I mean, all the things I do already changed mainly because of I would say.
It's such an interesting timing of when you started being a copywriter. So AI hits, ChatGPT hits, and you're like, I should become a
Yep.
copywriter. And you kind
Yep.
of did what the opposite of what people are doing.
Yeah.
That's true.
Do you notice in the community that people are stopping or like doing something else, having to pivot, feel like they're not needed anymore? Like, is there that energy there, or do you feel like there's still a space for copywriters in this day and age?
The thing is, I truly believe that there will always be a need and a purpose for copywriters, actually, just not in the classical sense. And you have to be okay with that it is a new reality, but there is still a way you can do it. Because if we look at AI generated text, for example, I mean, since the age of ChatGPT and Claude and how they are all named, um, it's quite obvious to spot completely AI generated text. Like it's always the same structure. It's always playing with the same words and lines and rhythms, especially the rhythm. And if you just shift your mind into thinking, okay, you can now either be a copywriter using AI but refining it because you know the basic psychology of this whole thing, um, then you can still be a copywriter for those business owners who are somehow not able to jump on this AI whole AI train. Like I don't want to say elder people, but people that are older than us. Um, like if I think, I mean, I'm from Tyrol. We tourism is big there. There is always a need for a business that wants this full service in the old way, yeah. But then you could also have clients like they are generating texts and they send it to you for proofreading, for editing, just so that we have our or a better conception of what they actually want. And then you refine it and you can sell this as a service, or you can do a complete consulting service, which is actually, from my point of view, the best option and the most logical option you should actually do. Um, so yeah, if you're thinking copywriting in the classical sense, if this is the only thing you want, then probably I need to maybe warn you a bit that there are ways, but you're making your life harder as it already probably is. Um, but if you accept that there is a new reality on how this job is being performed, what you're actually selling, then there will always be a need in some way.
Yeah, I mean, I think designers are now feeling what copywriters were feeling in the beginning, that we have to like change the way we sell our services. We have to change the way we think about our services. And it's kind
Yeah.
of hard to do because you're so used to specific ways. Also, what you learn at university, it's like years of indoctrination, and then you're supposed to like pivot in like a few months. This is just extremely
Yeah.
difficult for many of us.
Yeah, I think, are we allowed to go into the value
Yes,
conversation?
we are allowed to.
Okay.
I allow it.
I wasn't sure what your plan is.
No, that was I just wanted to know copywriter's perspective.
Yeah, I think the value, or like what we see as valuable, hasn't changed, but it's just become like more obvious. Like you said with
Yeah.
copywriting, AI can generate a text, but it does have like these patterns, it has this format. And I mean, I think most businesses don't want that put out there, and then people are like, "Oh, you just used AI for this." Like, I will hope that most businesses wouldn't, that's not like their bar of quality. And then having
Yeah.
somebody who knows what they're doing look over that, edit it, and like essentially be an editor rather than like a copywriter, in the traditional sense, that there's value there. And I do think that there are clients that would value that service. And the similar thing is happening now in design. Like, there are businesses out there that will just generate a logo with AI, and they'll just call it a day. But I think that but those are also the same clients that have been buying from Fiverr and Upwork for the last 10 years, So it's like, it's not like that's a new market. Those clients have always existed. I think the clients
No.
that value our design work, like the designers doing more than just that Fiverr type of logo, that they still want the service and the process around it. But I think that what's become confusing maybe for those clients is the time. Like, oh, a ChatGPT can do a logo in 10 seconds, like, and you need a week for it, and then you charge me 1,000 euros for that. Like, how is that fair? Like, they're starting to question the prices because they see this free option, which is the same in quotation marks.
Uh,
And then they find it difficult to like have those two things next to each other and like to make sense of that.
Yeah.
So now it's our job to make sense of that for them, which is difficult.
I agree with you. And on top of that, I think that a lot of creatives don't even understand the value of what they're delivering.
Yeah.
So I think that there's not just like this value conversations or this education to be had with clients or potential clients, but also within the industry.
Yeah. With like among our peers.
Exactly. Yeah.
mhm.
So I mean, now comes the question actually. Do you think that creatives understand the value of their own work, or have they just been as confused as the clients?
The thing is, you there's a certain gap, and this is the root of the whole problem, that has actually been ongoing in this industry for quite long, but now again AI took off the filter. There's the thing, you already said something quite in the beginning that I pretty much liked, with value based on output. I think it was that. And the thing is, back when we had no AI, where we're really just fighting on our lives on all these platforms, just trying to get a deal. Already there, you were valued from the perspective of the customer because of the output, but the thing is, they don't know what's behind all this stuff, why it takes a week to get a logo and to get things going. But they don't see that, and that's such an issue. And AI is like kind of growing that knowledge gap between the professionals and then the clients, because AI makes them a lot more lazy than they already are, and a lot more short-minded in some way, like just easy use of AI, but not conscious use of AI. Um,
Yeah,
so
there's definitely a difference there.
that's that's one thing that even grew bigger as a reason why this industry is already quite hard on everybody who is participating there. But I think that's the root of everything already before AI, that it's basically our job to value an idea rather than services. That's the thing.
Yeah. You mean that people value like the final thing over like what we put into it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, and there's one point, it's like education, and back to the other question, how is AI changing and forming this industry and also my field? One thing you could also do is going into education, and that's basically how my business also got transformed, because I saw, hey, only with texting needs, I'm not gonna make it far. So, what is one issue that everybody has who wants to make business? This is one question I thought about, and then I found a solution to it, and it basically is in education, still in my field, but education.
Yeah. We want to get into that more later on. Um how do you think that clients or how do you expect clients to ever understand that value of what goes into what we do? Like, I mean, the gap was there already and now it's bigger because of AI. So what can we do to like to help them understand that? Because I think for creatives
Um,
it's a bit harder, or like I think not everyone wants to pivot. Some people want to just design, and stay in design. So like what can people
yeah.
like that do to teach clients about the value of their work?
Um, I think the easiest thing would really be make yourself visible. That's the thing, what I meant before. Um, Back in the days, you put your services online and you were based on what you have already worked on. And now also you need to see it as a branding effort to be able to sell your services, to sell your designs. And it doesn't have to be a big effort. You can use Instagram, you can use TikTok, whatever. Like, just film yourself while you're working, put it out there, especially when you're in design. It's really nice to see like the process on video. It doesn't have to be big, but you can push like small seeds out there, and eventually something will grow. I think
It's
that's
such
the best tip I could give.
Yeah, it's such a tough time for people who are not like
Extroverted.
Exactly. Like, for example, for me, that's my worst
Yeah.
nightmare. To be like, I mean, I know I'm sitting here on this podcast and it's actually fun, but if I had to do this by myself, like recording myself working, I think, I don't know, there would be such a disconnect to who I am authentically or how I show up authentically. I think it would take me a long time to find my voice in the content creation. It's also not something
Ah,
that I'm interested in particularly. Like, that's the next thing. Like, it's just another job on top of my job. Like this, but I kind of understand it. It's like marketing. I understand you have to market yourself. And if that's what the market
yeah.
asks for, I understand that you have to do it one way or the other, but you can find a way to do it. Maybe not with a TikTok, maybe with writing, maybe, I don't know. I don't even know what
Maybe more in-person networking, like if you're able to
exactly.
do that. I
Yeah.
do think, yeah, I think marketing is a really important word that you use because I think everyone who starts off in the creative industry doesn't realize how much of the job is actually marketing yourself and your
Mhm.
business. It's
Yeah.
something we didn't
Yeah.
realize for a really long time too. And and unfortunately we live in an age where marketing, a huge chunk of that is on social media and is online and
Yep.
is in that content creation space. So it's also
Yeah.
something that I think some people need to realize is the uncomfortable reality that that's just how it is. And if you want to run a business nowadays, you probably are going to have to be out there in your like showing your personality in some way. But
Yeah.
yeah, then it's a question of if you don't like doing that, if you don't enjoy that part of the work, maybe it would be better to work at an agency or somewhere where you didn't have to do that.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think it's crazy times right now where we're just all trying to like navigate something completely different.
Everyone's just trying to figure it out. Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, that's why I
Yeah.
really like to hear about your perspective because I feel like copywriters got hit first. Like you were on the front lines of this war, quotation marks,
AI war.
war, like in a sense, yeah, because it came out of nowhere. I don't think many were expecting this. And suddenly there was this tool that was generating text. I mean, that was like the first form. And then came like image
Yeah.
generation. They all looked like weird, had like 10 fingers, whatever. And now there
Yeah.
are videos that I sent to Becca thinking it's real. And it's kind of creepy how fast it evolved to a point where it's good enough for a human eye to not recognize whether it's real or not. And
Well, a
Yeah.
lot of people were just recently posting to think of a like recent example of another like, oh, we're so cooked because of AI. Claude released Claude Design,
yeah.
which is
Yeah.
basically a design prompting tool. It can create everything like websites so that you can export into code, and then you can also create Instagram carousels, which you can then I don't know. I think you can even export it to Canva. I don't know, but there's like a lot of
Jesus.
options.
Yeah.
And everyone was saying designers are cooked, and but a lot of designers, like a lot of what I saw, and my threads feed is mainly designers who run businesses. Um, they were saying like this isn't the same as what we do, and like this is very generic, and yes, it's good design, but it's like it's fine for some clients, but it's not enough for others. It's not enough for my
Yeah.
clients. Like I'm still relevant. And I agree with all those people. It's also my stance when it comes to AI. But what would you say to a client who would come to you and say like everything you do, I could just have an AI generate for me? Like what's your response to people who say that about copywriting?
My response would, I think, be, or actually is, I mean, you can do that. I'm completely blunt when somebody comes up with this question. I'm completely blunt, and I say, hey, I mean, of course you can do that, but just be aware that there are ways to do that in the correct sense. Like, especially with AI, the input you give is also your output, because your output only reflects the quality of the input it got. And I mean, there is a reason why even also big companies have own job postings for people who are specifically hired to really just focus on Meta ads or Google ads in the text sense and the monitoring. Um, I really always explain it or give it to them from the perspective that there is knowledge behind it. There is so much bigger input you need to give than you would expect. Um, Even with AI, I mean, of course, somebody could also write a prompt. Yeah, give me the main task, for example. Somebody who is working with SEO needs to be aware of. Yeah, but then you have 5 points, and they're really rudimentary, but you never would really dig deep into what it actually takes. And then you're sitting there somewhere, probably in your office or living room, crying about how you spend 180 euros in meta ads today, and nothing is working. I mean,
I think that that's gonna
you
come
you
soon. Like the realization's gonna hit. Like I think we are now in the phase where people are just trying it out, laying people off because yeah, they had this
AI can do it anyway.
exactly. And I think it's
yeah,
kind of like what we had with I can think of an example of what we had with clients where we pitched some like we had a pitch of some sort and they went with like a cheaper option and
huh?
yeah, to be blunt, we were thinking, yeah, okay, we're interested in the outcome here because we knew they were going with that options because they were way cheaper than us. I mean, fine, fair
Yeah.
enough. But the funny thing is that many of those clients ended up coming back to us because they were not happy with the result. And I think that something similar, I mean, I'm just going to put that out there now. Let's see what happens in a few years. But I think that something similar in that sense is going to happen um, to the people now just mainly using
Yeah.
AI to generate and to
Yeah.
create because they're gonna hit like this the ceiling of what they can do and what will work and what won't work and they won't know why it works and why it doesn't work because of what you said. They're not experts in the field. How would they know? And I get
Huh.
it. How would you know? And yeah, so that's my prediction.
No, I think it's also like it's
Yeah.
already happened before. Like I just feel like I'm repeating myself, but with Fiverr logos, like, or even like a website, we've had clients come to us who have done their website either themselves or somebody like some freelancer did it really cheap for them. And then they
Mhm.
come in, they're like at the second stage of their business. Like it was fine for a certain amount of time. It wasn't a bad product. Like they were making sales. They were had they had a customer base built up, but then they were at this point where they wanted more than that. Like they wanted to scale. They
Mhm.
wanted to do more with their website. And that's when they come to us. Like the clients who come to us are the ones on that second stage of their business who they want to grow. And that product is just not doesn't it just doesn't perform well anymore for their needs. And the same thing is going to happen with AI. Like they'll have their website prompted with Claude or whatever, and then they'll realize they can't change the content easily. They can't do all these things. They can't like they
That's the
can't
thing.
connect to their supplier's platform because there's no way to do that right now. And then they're gonna hit these walls, and that's when they'll come to us and like, I have
Uh,
this website that I generated with AI. Like instead of it being like I bought this on Fiverr, it'll be like, yeah, I got it on AI.
It's kind of also what you said with I generated this with AI. Can you please fix it?
Yeah.
Like when clients
yeah.
come to you, mentioned in the beginning, it's kind of like the editor role. Like it's gonna be like I feel like something similar is gonna come for us as well.
Yeah, and then we're gonna be like, well, we have to rebuild it because it's
Yeah,
Yeah.
not enough here.
yeah, but I think that there might be some similarities coming.
Yeah.
I can see that.
That's the thing. Also an argument would actually be, yeah, or what the comparison I always like to make is between using AI to get something done when you don't have a clue about this is like taking medicine without going to therapy. Like AI is nice for short-term issues, but if you hire a professional, you can expect that there will be a longer relationship, and these people are taking care of so much more than you actually think.
Yeah. And I think that's also like that comes back to the process. AI doesn't
Yeah.
have like that whole process. It also doesn't really push back unless you tell it to. So it'll
Yeah.
just give you a result and it'll be like, this is the perfect result. And if you don't know better, you'll be like, okay. AI is like really
That's the thing.
confident, you know? So you're just gonna trust the AI because you don't know better. Whereas someone who's an expert knows what they're doing, they will push back. They'll be like, I would recommend this instead of what you wanted because of like for these reasons that it'll perform better. And then they have like it's a whole conversation, and that's like the process that goes into it, which clients don't actually see until they work with you. And that's
Yeah.
a lot of the issues that come up are with
That's
clients that have never booked creative services before.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and talking about creative services, I mean, I don't know how it is for you guys, but for me as a texter, it's considered to be a creative job, but basically the creative part is maybe not even 20%. The rest is all analytical and really dry compared to having or needing to be creative to write a text. Talking about misconceptions.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's a different type of creativity. Like they think a lot of people think we're just like artists or whatever, like drawing. Um, but the creativity comes with like strategic thinking, which can also be creative. But
No,
they don't see that. It's because they can't visualize it. You know, when you have copy, like, or you're thinking of hiring a copywriter, you can visualize the copy, like whether you need it for a website or a flyer or for whatever
yeah,
SEO. It's like something tangible, whereas the process that goes into it, they don't see any of that. And then, yeah, and now with AI just generating it, it's making
Yeah.
it even worse.
I mean, the nature of our work is like output driven in a sense where the output is something visual, but there is so much that goes on in the
yeah,
background that's not visual. But we're selling whatever is like the visual part of it. That's actually what the client receives. So they think, aha, I paid for a logo, I paid for a typeface, I paid for whatever. But they're actually paying for the process and the thinking, like what you said. 80% that's is around 80% is process and thinking, 20% is
no,
execution. And that's where all the budget goes, like in the background. Like that's why I always like hated when we had to do like an hour breakdown of our services. So I'm like, yeah, I don't know.
yeah.
I'm gonna be thinking here. Maybe I'm quick, maybe I'm not, but the output's gonna be high quality regardless.
Yeah, and also the outcome, like the impact your work has will
Exactly.
be the same regardless how long you work on it because you will that's what you're selling.
Mm.
You're not selling the
Yeah.
hours you're putting into it.
But do you think that people or like creatives have like this gap in like, well, let me rephrase it. Do you think that creatives are missing that the knowledge or like the knowledge that the process and thinking is worth something? Because I just cannot imagine people selling websites for 500 euros here in Vienna
Yeah,
without actually like thinking about, wow, okay, I'm gonna put like thoughts into this. I'm gonna like plan this. I'm
yeah,
gonna like there's gonna be so much more going on than me delivering a one-page website.
yeah. I think honestly, this is a point because a lot, or maybe most of the people are in kind of a panic mode. So maybe they have some more blind spots, but this is, I think, really a thing that people in the creative industry put too little value in the knowledge they have that they should actually include in their whole offering and pricing.
Yeah,
Agreed.
I'll agree with that too. I have a controversial question though. And
Yeah,
I have my opinion on this because I think there are designers that don't do all that. So if we say like the the way that you can differentiate yourself from AI is by selling your process. My question is, do you think that most creatives actually have a process that's worth selling? Like that's worth something that they can sell?
Juicy.
it depends. It depends. Honestly, probably there are not really or let me rephrase it this time. There are probably not only jobs and activities out there that are actually worth selling their process, or maybe they don't even have a process. I think there are, because even if you're thinking and now let's jump over to really art. Every artist has an own process. Some even don't have a process. Like, there are a lot of painters and artists out there that just did what they did and don't really have a proper academic or strategic or set in stone process. Um, so my take. Wow, I'm really good in blowing simple answers up in a very broad explanation. But no, I think that there are people in the creative industry that for sure do not have a certain process.
Yeah, I have to always think of designers who like to design for themselves or for
Yeah,
like make beautiful things, but not necessarily things that perform well or that their clients need or want. And a lot of the times their clients aren't aware that they would need something else, and they'll just buy the pretty thing because it's pretty. And yeah, I think that those designers are going to struggle in a time where it's not just about the visuals and the aesthetics anymore.
Yeah, and that's what I think is so hard because their output can be much better than AI, but AI is like closing the gap more and more. I mean, I looked
yeah,
at Cloud Design. I mean, I looked at some videos and they were generating really good websites. Like I was shocked,
Yeah.
shook us to my core. I was like really like, "Oh, okay, what the fuck? Well done." Packing up my things now. I mean, of course, not that extreme because I agree with what you're saying. We're not just like output machines. That's not who
yeah,
we are. We are like selling much more than that. And our strength actually was always the thinking part. And
Yeah.
like we were always like priding ourselves in all the strategic thinking that we could do, and we added a lot of
yeah,
value into those projects. So I'm very confident in that. But I also have to agree. I don't think many creatives have that. Like they have a very good, they create very amazing output and it's
yeah.
beautiful. Um, but it's gonna be harder and harder to sell if the value is only based in the output. Well, okay, that's kind of sad. Let's move into what we can actually do.
Yes,
Uh,
yeah, you actually had like a good solution suggestion that you mentioned earlier, which was the moving into education aspect of it.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
That's and also what marketing yourself, like in a different way, where you said, okay, you need to generate value into your brand, into your name. No, wait, you need to put
yeah,
effort into your brand and into your name. And I don't think it's that different to what happened before. I think it's a different scale now. I think even smaller freelancers have to do that now. But I think in the grand
yeah,
scheme of things, like the big players are already doing that. That's how they were able to scale. I don't think that they were just creating really nice output. I think that they were already in
yeah,
all the awards. They were like making names for themselves, and that's why they got booked. I don't think it's that much different, but I think it's kind of sad that we all have to now compete in the content creation sphere, where we have to
yeah,
now, yeah, be essentially content creators to get recognized. But of course, as already mentioned before, there are other ways to do that as well. But I really like your example because it's true. I've seen since we have like threads and also on LinkedIn now that I got more active, I keep seeing that too. And I'm also trying. I'm also like testing the waters there. It just doesn't come naturally to me. So I'm like, I'm like keep
yeah,
procrastinating it. But I know that eventually I have to dip my feet into the cold water and just do it. But
true.
it doesn't come naturally to me. That's all I'm
Yeah.
saying.
Yeah, and the other thing
Understandable.
yeah. And you mentioned that you're now going into like the education side of things.
Yeah.
So, what changed in how you work and how you sell that, and how has that made a difference for you in terms of your business, like in terms of making money?
Um, so as I said before, the only stream of money I got into my business was really with writing texts, writing texts. But ChatGPT is getting better and better. Claude is getting better and better, especially Claude. That's also my most favorite LLM, I need to say. Claude, thank you. Uh, sponsor me. No, just kidding. No, what I saw is, or I moved to here to Vienna, and of course, since I'm freelancing, I'm going to networking events, and the thing was that I got to connect to quite a lot of pretty interesting people, and they helped me uncover a part that is not really thought about from too many people, and they helped me uncover this part, and that's when I got into or seeing the issue that we're having. Everybody needs to work on their branding. They can be corporations, but they can also be freelancers. Like nowadays, you need to build a brand for it. And they all know that this is really important. The thing is, nobody bloody tells them how they can do it. Like, those are people that really are not having their focus in marketing, or in communications or whatever, or being creative. I mean, most of them are creative in their own way, but not for these purposes. Um, and I was talked, not really talked into, like, I met a friend of mine at a business event, and she asked me if I could help her with building her branding, or leveling up her branding. But the thing is, she's a very analytical person, which is good, but she's not a too creative one. She's more strategic. But she said my approach would be interesting because I'm all about, and this is actually how this whole thing happened, because we were talking about the view, we were talking about outsourcing in general, and I have a certain opinion on outsourcing. In my opinion, you should only outsource your activities once you've tried and done it for yourself for a certain period of time, and dig into it. So this is my take. Before you haven't done that, don't think about sourcing something out, because it will create other huge issues, which I will actually come to afterwards. But this whole conversation was for me the kickoff, of changing my ways of work from being really only a output service, output in terms of texts, or would I also want to create output in terms of education and consulting? And what I do now is basically working with founders and freelancers, on a strategic, um, on a strategic level, where they say, "Hey, Sandro, I want to work with you over the next 6 months to 1 year, to build my branding, because either I don't have the budget to outsource, or I don't have the certain knowledge to outsource." So basically, I help them learning, building their own branding to a certain extent where it makes sense to outsource your services to an agency. And this is a little bit, the effects in my perfect world in my head, the effects go both ways, because I help founders, I help other people, but I also help agencies and the creative industry itself, because the thing is, I know both sides, and if I correct my knowledge wisely, then everybody will be happier, because once those founders and people are ready to hire and other services and outsource things, it will be fun to work with them, because they know what is going on behind the scenes. And so a briefing with a customer is not 80% things you cannot use and only 20% quality things that have been discussed. Maybe this percentage can change, because they actually know what needs to be done, why it needs to be done, and how it's basically done in the background.
Okay, so you're basically teaching people how to do it themselves.
Yeah.
Okay.
Until it really makes sense and is already on the track to be outsourced and worth of outsourcing.
Exactly. And on that note, you mentioned something that like potential issues that might arise if you outsource something, like the consequences of
Yeah.
outsourcing something that you know nothing
Yeah.
about. What are those consequences?
That's first of all, you don't know, you cannot actually judge on the quality of the work your service has provided, because there are some works, or some things that sometimes only get the approval because you, as in your own subjective viewing, think this is good or beautiful or whatever it needs to be. but you're not really thinking about your audience if they're feeling it good. So you don't really see that if the agency actually produced like a solid amount of work or a solid piece of work. You're making yourself really dependable again, and this is one thing I'm really all about, because people, they want to work for themselves because they want to have the independence. But when you cannot judge the quality of a service provider's work, one of your suppliers that actually basically forms your supply chain and production chain, um, then you're making yourself dependable on those and don't really see, okay, is this a good deal? Is this a bad deal? Is the outcome worthy of it? Um, Basically, the thing is, if you don't educate yourself in the things you want to outsource, you're making yourself highly dependable. And this is actually the one thing why people want to work for themselves, because they want to be independent. And you're making yourself, when you run your own business, you can make yourself dependable so easily without you even knowing it. It's insane.
That's
And
so
that's, I
true.
think, really the biggest consequence of this whole issue with outsourcing too early and outsourcing not the right thing.
That's actually so true. I can think of clients that had experience working with other creatives or having done it themselves. They were
Yeah,
for sure like the more the least like pixel pusher clients. Like
Yeah,
they were the most like chill clients. They
and I
trusted us.
yeah, I think the work that you're doing is really interesting because it's actually also countering this AI age because you're teaching
yeah,
people about the processes. Because once you have to do it yourself, you realize one, how difficult it is, also how
yeah,
much time it takes, what goes into it. And then when you hire someone and they tell you how long it's going to take them, you're not like questioning that. You're not like, oh, why do you need so
yeah,
long for this? Because they understand like they probably would need much longer having already been in that situation where they
Yeah,
had to do it themselves.
for sure. Also, now I
yeah.
have a question about kind of connects to what you said.
Mhm.
You said that one part of your business is or was, I'm not quite sure what percentage it is now, but output based, as in creating like texting, not texting.
Mhm.
That's the
Cop-
German word,
Text.
copywriting.
Copywriting.
Just texting. Okay, copywriting, and another part is now education, and it's
Yeah.
I I feel like I'm really curious about the pricing of those services in a sense of I
Mhm.
feel like when you price output, it's a bit clearer what you can price and how you can price it. I mean, a lot of people just take hourly rates, for example, but is it is it different is it different how you price your writing services versus your education slash consulting slash thinking services?
Yeah. Yeah. There is a difference in the pricing. Like if I only look at my writing services where I actively have text as outputs, um, this is always package priced. Like I mean, of course, you get a certain type of text for a certain amount of money, but it's always like with strategy behind it, with strategy called, and for example, in a website contest, SEO research, there is always like a whole strategy attached to my services. Um, but you get this whole thing, not only the text, like you also have the strategic services. When I think of my educational services, I need to think in a different perspective when I want to price it. And because on the one hand, I only sell my knowledge and expertise, but it's also made that it is able to scale. So it's not something where I have only capacity for a certain amount of projects versus I have capacity for a lot of students or partners or whatever you will want to call them. Um, so this is also something that needs to be calculated in the price, since it's something that you can scale. And I mean, it's knowledge based, but it's also for people who start their own company or their own startup or whatever. they don't have a too big budget. That's the other thing, because when somebody outsources their copywriting service, they already have a budget. That's the thing. Like founders, they barely have a budget, so it's a monthly cost, for example, until a certain amount is reached, and there the only differentiation is the monthly fee is higher if you're only doing it with me for 6 months versus the monthly fee decreases when you want to do it with me for 1 year, for example. So you see the way of coming to your price in those two fields is a completely different approach.
Yeah, I really like that insight.
Yeah, I think that's also normal. Like it's something we say a lot too. Like we'll talk a lot about like value-based pricing and how we should move towards that, especially now. But I
Yeah.
always say like sometimes it does make sense to just do hourly based pricing because I don't know if it's just like maintenance work or it's a tiny task, like there's no need to put a value-based price on that. So I think it is always interesting to like view it as like the whole context of your price. It's very flexible. And I think that's also why it's so hard for people to establish prices because there's just so much to think about.
Yeah, also there's so
Yeah.
much different contexts.
Yeah.
Contexts. Like for example, what you said, okay, you're selling copywriting. Okay, you know your scopes, you know your clients, like you kind of like know your client base and what they usually want from you. Versus with consulting, when you like start doing something new with a completely new clientele, you really have
Hmm.
to think, okay, wait a second, my pricing strategy doesn't make sense anymore, and you have to adapt. And I think, especially in creative services or with creative services, it's so difficult to get the pricing right. Because even if you price something
Yeah.
that's traditional, like, I don't know, let's say a website, there's so many methods to do that. You can do a subscription, you can price it super cheap, but then add on a really heavy retainer. You can,
Hmm.
whatever, I don't know, there's like many ways to do it, and depends on what you feel comfortable with or what makes sense to you. And yeah, so that's why I was really curious to hear about your strategies. That's always a
Yeah.
good insight to have. We love talking about pricing. Well,
She
but that's,
always manages to sneak in a pricing question, I swear.
I know, but I'm
Like
like so interested how people price their work.
even one time when I prepared the episode and I like made it in a way that like we wouldn't start talking about pricing again,
Yeah.
somehow she still managed to put in a question.
Oh well,
Yeah,
that's
but
me.
it is an important topic. Actually, I just last week I wrote a blog article for my website regarding how our copywriting service is priced, like given an
Yeah.
actual range, because everybody's so secretive about it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
that's
yeah,
why I'm like,
funny,
I'm
funny,
trying
That's the
funny
other
to,
thing,
coincidence.
yeah.
yeah, I'm trying to uncover here. I'm an undercover worker. But no, but seriously, because it is so intransparent. That's why I'm so curious to hear how other people do it, because there is no right or wrong way. I mean,
That's the
there
Wrong
thing.
might
would
be, yeah, okay, wait,
wrong would be like a dumping price, but everything
obviously.
else is
Yeah,
like
But
usually
yeah,
if you're
pretty reasonable. Yeah.
exactly, so if you're cautious about it and the pricing makes sense to you and it makes sense for your business, then yeah, arguably there might be better ways, sure. I'm just curious
oh
to
yeah.
hear about people's approaches, because I think that many people in the creative industry struggle like really badly with it. I mean,
Yeah, and I think a lot of people do want more transparency, so
exactly. So
it's
that's
good
why I
that
do the sneak
there
in
are
all the
people.
pricing questions. Well, being mindful of the time.
Yeah, I think we'll move on to the final questions. This is something we ask everybody,
Hmm.
or like some variation of this. And it's if you
Yeah.
could go back in time and talk to your younger self, like before you started your business, what's something like what's a piece of advice you would give to yourself?
I think there are quite some. First of all, even if you're going into this whole project with a quite conservative thinking on how it will actually be, nah, it will be not like that. But don't, I mean, be strict to yourself, but don't be hard on yourself. That's what I actually want to say with it, because I tend to be quite strict with myself, but in the same time also hard on myself when something is not going according to plan. Like, I take it personal too much. So yeah, be strict with you, but don't be hard on you. Put everything you can do in it and even more, because sometimes you tend to even lie to yourself a little bit when you're thinking, yeah, I did everything possible. Nah, there are always other ways that open up other possible, or that would make it possible. You're just blind for it, or just lying to yourself that you already did everything of or every of these things. And the third thing would be, don't overcomplicate it. What I saw, us humans, we tend to be uh, all overthinkers and conceptualizing everything too much before actually trying to, like, stop that. Stop that immediately.
Stop it.
Just jump into it, and then take on the theoretical part about this. First, try everything, don't conceptualize everything.
Yeah, that's a good point.
That's a really good point, because I think a lot of people tend to like do a lot of planning and like not enough doing.
Yeah.
I feel called out.
She's one of those people.
Same.
I'm like weirdly perfectionist, but only up until a certain point. Up until like starting it, I'm like, it's super stupid. Like what you said rings so true. Like honestly, I can just like sign that. Well, thank you so much for joining us. Really loved your insights.
Yes, thank you again for being
Thanks for
here.
having me.
Thank you for listening to this episode. If you enjoy discussions on the future of AI and design work, check out episode 126, where we talk about how AI hasn't commodified creative work and that this has been an issue in our industry for a long time. If you like the podcast, please leave us a 5-star rating.